Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
That's yesterday. It says arrest and detention of Mrs. Sedina Tamaklo at Tiono. I can today confirm that Mrs. Sedina Tamaklo at Tiono is being detained at the Nevada Southern Detention Center, and the address is given. My information is that she was detained by U.S. Marshals on January 6th and has since been kept at that detention center. I am reliably informed that acting on an extradition request sent to the U.S. authorities sometime in July 2024, U.S. Marshals arrested Mrs. Tamaklo Atieno and placed her in detention to await her day in courts. And this addressed to all media houses from Victor Emmanuel Smith, ambassador. So it's from the Ghana's ambassador to the United States. So that's a piece of information out there. Right. Doc, except you want to comment briefly on this. We want to look at the appointment, the government's president's nomination of some persons to that advisory group.
Well, I think this matter of Sedina Tamaklo has already been decided by a court of competent jurisdiction. And indeed, she has been committed of all the alleged crimes that she perpetrated. And so it is something not to even ponder about, because the economy is of a greater concern to the people than this matter. Indeed, David, Ghana's economy is still not out of the woods. Even though there are certain positive macroeconomic signals coming in, especially from the current IMF program that we're in, and certain prudent economic fiscal discipline by the Minister for Finance and the current governor of our central bank. If you look at inflation today, it is down to a single-digit number, 5.4%. And this is the first time since 2021 that we've been able to have a single-digit inflation rate. If you look at the monetary policy rate, it is declining from 27% to 18%. The debt of the country has declined from 726.7 billion cedis to now currently 684 billion cedis. The debt to GDP ratio from 60.8% to now 48.9%, and definitely also the IMF is saying 55%. So there is some form of, I would say, gains when it comes to our macro economy. However, our economy's structure is still vulnerable to global shocks, because if you look at our government's earnings from exports, mostly comes from two commodities, gold and cocoa, which gold takes about 60% to 70% of our export revenue, right, followed by cocoa. But the point is that what happens when the price of gold fall? We would have a huge shock. And that is why, in the wisdom of the United Party and the Great Transformational Plan, we said that for us to achieve greater strides in our economy, we must first and foremost need and ensure that there is a government of national unity. A government of national unity will be a government that will tap into the human resources of each and every citizen, irrespective of your political affiliation, your tribal affiliation, or your religious affiliation. That is the first step. And so when it comes to an inclusive government, this time around, is the NDC propagating inclusive governance? Well, on the surface, I can say, well, they are making some inroads, but I don't think it is enough, because You know, the constitution is part of the problems that we face as a country. The winner takes it all syndrome, as we've seen over the years since the inception of our fourth republic. And so we believe that no one is a paragon of knowledge. And just like a baobab tree, wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one person can embrace it. It takes a collective effort of each and every citizen. And so it is incumbent onto this government to still engage other parties, other individuals. And that is why when I looked at the names of the members of the Presidential Advisory Group on the Economy, and I saw Mr. Kwame Pienim, who is a renowned economist, I was quite happy about that, because we all know where he comes from and where he comes from. I mean, and stands as far as partisan affiliation is concerned, you know. But if you look at the list, I must commend the president for also ensuring that there is some form of gender balance. But others have argued, why isn't the current finance minister part of the group? I mean, I don't know what went into the rationale and the thinking of the president in selecting them, but indeed, I think that the finance minister doesn't have to be in this group, because this is a presidential advisory group. So this is more like people who the president is going to get a second thought on matters or policies that are proposed by the finance minister. And so if the finance minister is part of this group, definitely it will be more like a conflict of interest in advising and ensuring that the best policies are adhered to by the executive. And so in terms of, from a governance perspective, I believe that the finance minister doesn't have to be part of this. David, Ghana is home to a lot of natural resources, a youthful population, and a huge pool of talents, right? We believe that the current banking system, taking into consideration the interest rate we pay on our loans, is not helping the private sector thrive, and it's not even helping our youth. You take it for example, David. Imagine I was a fresh graduate from the University of Ghana. I have a fantastic idea to set up a small enterprise or medium enterprise to some form of substitute a certain import into this country. As a university student, all I have is my business plan and idea. I don't have any collateral, right? Yeah. And I cannot go and use my family home to go and take loan, because other siblings as well, I mean, I cannot, you know what I mean, the risk involved in that. Yeah. So at what point in time can we ensure that dreamers, entrepreneurs, indeed social entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs that can ensure that there will be some form of transformation, youthful ones, would have ease to access capital, cheaper capital, to achieve Ghana's economic transformation? These are legitimate questions that we need to ask ourselves. My brother, Monah, is a farmer. He knows very well that he cannot rely on our banking system to finance his farming activity, because there is no country in this world whose farming industry can thrive on a banking system that gives a double-digit interest rate on their loans. There's nowhere in the world. If you look at China, commercial farmers are borrowing less than 5% or even 1%. But here's the case in Ghana. You have to borrow at a double-digit, very expensive rate with very harsh terms. And so I believe that the time is now. The over-reliance on primary commodities and resources for export and foreign exchange to be able to beef up government revenue is over. Let us look inwards. how then do we, go have a long-term transformational plan tackling all sectors of our economy? So, for example, if you look at the Great Transformational Plan, we have envisioned that the 5 northern region in Ghana has more arable land and is enough, if well invested in terms of agriculture, can feed the whole of West Africa. That would be supported by a petrochemical industry that we envision to be created. And we know part of the end products or byproducts of crude oil is also fertilizer, right? Can you imagine if Ghana invests heavily in this petrochemical hub and is able to, produce a lot of fertilizer and supply to the rest of Africa? How much we would even rake in? Then we have the textiles and garment industry, which is about $1.4 trillion globally. That's a global market. Today, Bangladesh earns about $30 billion from garments alone. What are we doing in this regards? If you look at the oils and oil and fats industry, which has a global market value of $540 billion, Malaysia is taking a chunk of it by $20 billion each year. And we know that the Malaysians came down to Ghana to learn how to plant oil palm. Thankfully, they are not even, I would say, a secular society, it's an Islamic society. Can you imagine if they also tapped into the potential of palm wine and all that? You can imagine the value of that industry. So I think that we need to get these things right. It is always a lazy man's approach to rely on all these traditional commodities for exports and revenue. There is more money in value addition, there's more money in innovation, but how then do we leapfrog these ideas? We need a robust banking and financial sector that would give cheap loans, and that's why if you look at the wisdom of the Great Transformational Plan, we are saying that the government should give fiscal incentives to the banks, that at least every bank that allocates 10% of their profit after tax to SMEs, right, that are managing an initiative or a business enterprise that seeks to have import substitution, it will go a long way, David, and it would have a cascading effect positively on the economy. We've also argued that the Bank of Ghana, right, is supporting government's drive to build and invest adequately in our infrastructure drive, should create what we call the infrastructure bonds, so that these bonds can be raised locally, and then private individuals who would go and take a concession from government or any contract from government can then borrow at a cheaper rate. Because part of the reasons why we have a huge debt when it comes to our road fund and other government development is that government delays in payments to contractors. And so the length of amortizing their loans increases, and the interest also builds up, it accrues. And that is an albatross on the neck of the government. And so we believe that collectively as a people, if we can be able to target the various sectors of our economy, taking into consideration the challenges we have, and indeed, we need to have a long-term developmental plan for Ghana. Most of our planning is short-term. For example, the Nkoko Kiti project. Bernard is here, he's a farmer. I think that this project is a waste of money. It's an absolute waste of money. Tell me why. Or ask me why. Look, you say you are going to distribute chicken or birds to various constituencies, to youthful people. Now, poultry farming is a very sensitive farming. You need certain conditions, and certain things to be right for you to get the outcome properly, right? You need to inject the birds, you need to make sure that the environment in which they grow under is well kept and optimal for their survival. right? And you need to also make sure that the standards are equal everywhere. How are they going to ensure that? In my opinion, if they are designated maybe a region, like say the Bono region, as the poultry hub of Ghana, this money, over 200 million cedis, they could have used that as a concessional loan for existing players in this industry to come and take loan and then add what you call it, machineries, and add some form of land and infrastructure, and then conduct a large-scale poultry farming, rather than distributing it to individuals and not have, because at the end of the day, what's the return on investment? When these individuals sell these birds, are they going to bring the money back to the government? How is the government going to benefit from it? And how is this policy going to mitigate reduce our import bill when it comes to chicken? It is not sustainable. It is not long term, and it's just short term. So these are the things that we are talking about. That Ghana needs a long-term transformational plan, not the four-year cycle for every election cycle. Policies are only tied to elections, but they are not tied to the long-term development of this country, and that is a major issue that we are facing. And so, David, this government is doing well when it comes to our macroeconomy, but I think that fundamentally we still have structural weakness in our economy. It will take the concerted and collective effort of each and every Ghanaian so that we can be able to transform our economy.
Right. Come with.
It's called Presidential Advisory Committee. On what?
Group.
Or group. On what?
The economy.
There is the economic management team at the presidency, led by the vice president, as has always been the case. There is the National Development Planning Commission. There is the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, with all the allied institutions under them. And still, we need a body called the Economic or Presidential Advisory Group.
Yeah.
The caliber of persons that are in that group, you call them heavyweights. And I just don't know what they are going to do. Sincerely, I don't know what they are going to do. But the vice president chairs the economic management team. And they will project, they will study what the economic situations are. And then they will respond with policy options that will cure the defects. So if today we have a presidential advisory group, also chaired by the vice president.
No, it's chaired by the president himself.
The vice president
is a member of the group.
So the president
chairs it. The president himself chairs it.
Before today, the president had formed some committee to promote Accelerated Export Promotion Committee. I'm sure you remember. That committee was announced early. What we are told, which as usual looks very promising, is that they will not take any income. And that they are going to do their job for free.
Pro bono.
Pro bono. It reminds me of Ken Ofori. Oh, it doesn't remind me. It doesn't remind you of Ken Ofori. It should remind you of Ken Ofori.
In what form?
Ken Ofori came and said he was not going to take any income for the job he's going to do.
He's going to serve his country
He's
for free.
serving his country. And the first day Ken Ofori went to office, he went to the office in his own car. And the news was everywhere that he has declined to take government vehicle. So he wants to use his personal car to do the job. Today, the man is not available. As we are up, the man is still locked up in detention. But the promise was that he was not going to take any income from the state. He ended up swallowing the state and the state coffers. So I sincerely don't think that we need this kind of group. You see, why are we dancing around rather than just go and confront the issue? Why? The challenges we face in our countries is that we are a resource-endowed country. But these resources are not owned or controlled by us. President Mahama at the UN was eloquent about this statement, that it's not acceptable for us to be resource rich whilst our people live at the periphery of the resources. After speaking that way at the UN, do you come home to be forming economic advisory group or presidential advisory group? We know where the problem is. Our gold, we don't own it. Our bauxite, we don't own it. Our manganese, we don't own it. Our oil, we don't own it. Our salt is taken away. Our lithium, we are parceling it out. Yeah? So you are giving things that are the wealth of your nation, you give it out. People own it. The state doesn't own it. And the state is guided by the contract, social contract between the voters and the government. How do you fulfill that social contract if you are not able to provide employment and a sustainable way of income for these people? How did Gaddafi transform his economy from a poor country to a rich country that owed no one, that was giving out loans, that international, multinational institutions were owing Libya? How did he do that? He just took ownership of his oil. From Libya owning 17% to now Libya owning 77% of that oil. He transformed the economy. Atta, what then happened was this, very simple. Every Libyan was having a share of the oil of Libya. Every Libyan. So as we are sitting here, at the end of the month, some resources from oil will trickle into your account. Whether it's Momo or it is bank account, it will go there. Every Libyan that was born, a month after you were born, an account is created for you, a holding account. And that account is not accessible until you get to 18, the age of majority. So every month something entered your account. You grew up with something to start life with.
In fact, rich.
And it's not only oil. It's not only oil. We have everything. So it's not economic presidential advisory group that will come and tell us that, look, President Mahama, action on the speech that you delivered at the UN. And if we take President Mahama's speech at the UN and we chop it into pieces and we want to implement it, I tell you this country is rich. Well, that is his choice. So we have a presidential advisory group. But sincerely, let's not dance around the chair when we can go and sit on it. No. See, I feel pain. You know what we're doing? We are pretending that we are generating employment. Just check around. It's only services that don't generate any productivity in the country. Its capacity to generate revenue is less. In fact, they consume rather than generating. You know, we have floated the army and all other security services. People have to be taken into the security services. What revenue do they generate? What revenue will the police service generate? So the people that we are taking to police service, to fire service, to prison service, to the Navy, to Army, to Air Force, they will take money from the state. they will not generate streams of money for you. And that has virtually become the most available employment for the bulk of the Ghanaian youth. Because you cannot find any job anywhere. So security issues daily, we are confronted with security issues. We are confronted with threats, insurgents. So we need to add more people into the army. So we are adding. We have to protect our waters, our sea. So we put more people into the Navy. We have to take control of our air. We put more people into the Air Force. We are putting more people into the police to be able to combat crime. Which crimes are generated as a result of the lack of employment space. So you keep adding more into the security services, and you are still generating streams of unemployed. So how long will you expand the security services? We need to redefine what generates income, what generates revenue, and what generates expenditure. So in the end, once we are increasing the expenditure basket but employing all these people, the revenue side, we are not taking care of it. And those who are forceful, talking about private sector growth, are rather taking over the assets that the state has. Not long ago, Tema Oil Refinery, as was done in 2006, was going to be sold. Yeah. Under Bahredu as Minister for Finance, they packaged Tema Oil Refinery to sell. We stood up, we fought, it was not sold. Again, under President Akufo-Addo and Ken Ofori, they parceled Tema Oil Refinery to sell 22 billion. 22 million dollars. Tema Oil Refinery. Then there was change in government. John Mahama appoints new leadership. In less than 7 months, the company that they were going to sell for $22 million was able to internally generate $21 million. The workers that were laid off, we now have to go and bring them on contract to come and refit the refinery. And in 4 months, the refinery is back to production. Yeah. Go to Tema Oil Refinery and see what we are doing there. So because we are refining and we have increased the capacity per day, what it means is that we will be able to stabilize the prices of fuel for a considerable period because there are residual benefits. Go to Gold Board. When it took away from the PMC, that was making losses over $450 million. This year they say they have made a loss, but it's 240. So you see that almost half of the losses have been reduced. So projecting into the future, the Gold Board is capable of clearing all its losses and beginning to make profits. Why are you in haste to state the state institutions that you could just introduce efficient leadership? After the experiment with PDS on our electricity generation, we have not stopped. We still want to sell ECG.
It says partial partnership.
No, that is how it started. After Vitin Rams came to this country to do management, they call it management contract on our water. What did they do? What did they do? They came, collected, garnered experience and left. In fact, we had to force them to leave. When President Mills took over, they were able to construct the Adenta water projects so that it supplied Medina all the way to Damfa. Yeah. We didn't do that. What are we talking about? So you see, where I said, I don't think that any advisory group is the solution, is the antidote.
In fact, they've not said it's the solution.
is the antidote. The antidote is taking control, putting people that can do the do. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. You have put people that can do the do. Gold board, Sami Jafi and Co. are putting that they can do the do. Turning losses or cutting the losses of state-owned enterprises and making sure that we are able to get to where we are. That is the solution.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to do. I believe you both combine the unemployment stuff together with this one, so we can move on to our last video. We have just about 10 minutes or so to go. This is very important. You know, the transport sector. And earlier on in the day, we tried to speak to some of the public transport, actors, Metro Mass and the Ayalolu. It looks like a whole lot of, troubles out there. Initially, the thinking was that this challenge or the situation we're finding ourselves in was artificial, where we thought that the trotro drivers were just, misbehaving so as to speak, trying to make some double monies here and there. But it looks natural. From what I've gathered, this was just staring us in the face, and what we are having is a very, very serious situation that needs to be addressed, not just by injecting buses into the system, because we are told that government is injecting some new buses into Metro Mass and the other ones, but it goes beyond that. Experts are now saying that as a country we need to review our transport sector and then put in the necessary policies and programs. We need some policy revitalization. They talked about congestion, and then we are told that we need to have a second look. One, our traffic system. Two, the road infrastructure. The roads are terrible, so as that you get one bus moving. The bad roads will force the driver to take less than maybe an hour. A journey that should take 30 minutes. It adds up to the congestion in the system. Doug, I want to start with you on this. From where you said, what is really happening? What is the cause of the chaos we find at our bus terminals?
Well, David, this indeed is an issue that I have been looking at closely, and I'm happy to also announce that there's a program that I've put together with some academics in proposing a solution to this menace. Indeed, I must state that the problem we're facing in our transport system, especially when it comes to infrastructure deficit, is as a result of failure in our local governance system. Yes, because it is the local government that provides these roads, infrastructure. Yeah. It is them that would have to build these bus terminals and stations and bus stops and all that, right? And ensure that we adhere to international best practices. It is only in this country that you build a road and you have open gutters. Open gutters. I mean, I've lived abroad for a considerable number of years. I have not seen an open gutter anywhere on the streets. It is only in this country. David, the local governance system, I think that as posited by the Constitution, highlights some form of decentralization. But practically, it is not there. We don't see any form of decentralization. And that everything is tied to the central government, one way or the other. We have even said that the appointments of MMDCs should change from the executive appointing them to having elections at the district level.
Right.
So that they will be held to account to the people and ensure that they do the works based on the dreams and aspirations of the people. We know that the assemblies are challenged with their IGFs. And I think that as part of the proposals and reform we want to see, the assemblies should have some form of financial autonomy and devolution. And that they should be allowed to borrow on their books so that they can be able to promote some form of infrastructure development within their localities and tap into it through maybe a roto system, right? Or providing certain services so that they can increase their internal revenue. You know, Ghana has failed to tap into the diverse form of transportation. Today, if you look at commuters, Accra itself has 3.5 million daily commuters. There's a huge demand. And that is why there's this cartel that has been created by these trotro drivers, and they are profiteering from that demand, which I believe and I think it's unethical, right? But of course, as economics will tell us that when demand is more than supply, of course, prices would increase.
And that was the reason why when I had the interview with the Metro Mass Managing Director, I sought to find out exactly. He is of the opinion that it is a natural thing. It is not as a result of somebody's intention to create that system to exploit commuters. He thinks that the system itself is not working. There's so much traffic in town. Where buses will leave. It takes hours before they come back because of the bad nature of the road. Once the roads are bad, the traffic situation, there's congestion.
That's right.
And you remember this BRT, the bus rapid something. That was with demarcated lanes. So he was thinking along that line. Yes, the Ayalolo buses. But we've not really paid attention to those those kind of challenges that we've left loose. And these are the situations that have come to bear right now in the country. So the situation goes just beyond, some of the things sitting somewhere and trying to create, a cabal, so to speak, to fish on commuters.
I mean, David, I for once knew that it was going to be a failure. We cannot have a BRT system work in Accra. It will not work.
With enforcement, it should.
It will not work. David, where's the infrastructure? Where is the infrastructure?
But they created the lanes.
Which lane? David, the road is already narrow. And then you take a portion of the lane and say that this is for BRT. It is not, possible. It will not work. It will not work. And that is why I say that I blame our local government and then the authorities in charge for spatial planning. Because, you see, we've allowed corruption to riddle our local governance system, that the assembly is not even monitoring its locality and ensuring that development is done in a more structured way as planned by the central government. People encroach on lands that are supposed to be roads. You know that for a fact. You go to an area and even if the government wants to build a gutter, they have to break into somebody's wall or house so that they have enough space to create for drainage. It is a challenge here. Accra is definitely a poorly planned city. And that is why the president has posited in his previous addresses to the nation that he plans to have a new city. I think that going forward, this is the wisdom with the United Party. The Volta River spans about 1,500 kilometers from the north to the south. We believe that we can have a water railroad system where if I'm traveling to Salaga, I can board a boat from Akosombo all the way to Makango and take a bus to Salga. It will save me money, it will save me time. Those that are also bringing food from the Afram Plains, which is the breadbasket of our country, can also use boats all the way to various ports, mini ports that should be created by the government so that it will be able to save time and the cost of transportation. Now we're talking about our railway system. How have we developed this sector since the inception of our Fourth Republic? We've heard of Eastern Corridor Railway Line, Western Corridor Railway Line, Tema to Mpakadam. I mean, all sorts of whimsical projects. How have they inured to the benefit of the Ghanaian when commuting from one region to another. So I think that we need a serious regional transportation or railway integration plan that should be supported by also the private sector. Because if we are able to have a BOT or a PPP facility that would enhance private sector participation so that the cost and burden and risk is shared across all board, it would help mitigate our transport challenges. You know, in the previous regime, they said they were going to bring the Sky Train. David, that project could have also helped, but I don't see any trains in the sky today. Have you seen any?
Even the land trains we are not able to
but even the well, that's right. Even the land trains. Have you even seen the locomotive that is being used for? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? When I look at that locomotive running across Stemma and Accra, it gives me a picture of Ghana in the 1930s or 1940s. As at 2026. So we have fundamental issues that we need to, solve. And also, David, the issue of spare parts and the cost of spare parts. It is my thinking as a rational student of policy that so far as you don't have an industry that can build spare parts for various vehicles in Ghana, and that you've not been able to provide your citizens with adequate roads, and therefore anytime we plow the roads of Ghana, it is likely that the lifespan of some spare parts would shorten. It is commonsensical to abolish spare parts, the import duty on spare parts on the end consumer. It is commonsensical to do that. So we are calling on the government to abolish the import duty on spare parts for all sorts of vehicles. Maybe they can even have it for only the mining sector, because I mean they are more liquid, you know, and more commercial, and you know what I mean. But when it comes to we the ordinary citizens and the commercial drivers, members of GPRT and Protoa, I think that they should abolish the import duty on spare parts, so that at least this cascading effect on pricing and inflation on transportation would also reduce.
You also realize that, look, the major reasons for hiking transportation fare had always been prices of spare parts.
That's
and
right.
Then fuel, yes. But as we speak, fuel prices are dropping, not that they've dropped. Now there's even competition amongst the BDCs, right? Spare parts, we are told that import duties have all reduced, have been slashed. So therefore, why the rise in transportation fares? So the discussion goes beyond these two factors.
Yes, but David, I think that the cost of spare parts is also relatively expensive. I mean,
even with the reduction.
So that is why it is rational to abolish the import duties on spare parts. Because David, you are not providing us with adequate roads, right? Look at the road from Accra to Kumasi today. It's a death trap. Accra to Cape Coast, Accra to the Volta region. It's a death trap. Accra to Aflao. It is no good. So if we are plowing this road every time, of course then the demand for spare parts would increase because the roads are not good.
Could we have maybe perhaps this big push, this Kumasi highway, the new ones that we intend to build, could we have done rail?
David, we've sung this tune for so long. Rail network is very crucial in integrating the economies of every region, right? And people-to-people movement. It is very, very crucial. China has done it successfully. Japan has done it successfully. The United States has done it successfully and is enjoying some positive economic gains to the other various countries. Right. Why are we not looking at this aspect? It is not rocket science to build a railway network from Accra to Kumasi, or Accra to Tamale, or Accra to Boku.
It's been done.
It's been done. All we need is reasonable investor proposals and pitches, right? and the right fiscal incentive for the private sector to come in and say, okay, I'm going to take this concession for maybe Accra to Kumasi and build. And maybe after 40 years, I give it back to you, government, to run. It can be done. Ghana loses $3 billion. Let me give you some maths. Ghana loses $3 billion to corruption each year. Let's take the previous 8 years of Akufo-Addo. We lost $24 billion. Now I ask you a question. Can $24 billion build a railway network with train station hubs, right? And then locomotives from Accra to Tamale? The answer is a big yes. It's a big yes. But we've lost all these monies to the pockets of corrupt individuals. And so, until we fix the gaps and the loopholes as far as the fight against corruption is concerned, government will lack the needed resources to promote such. But again, we do not think that government should be at the forefront of infrastructure development.
Right.
The balances or the books of government are very tight, right? And they have to forgo so many things, I mean, for other development, which is an opportunity cost.
Right.
We believe that government should bring in the right policy framework for the private sector and other foreign direct investors to take advantage of it, right, so that they can even have maybe a pricing regulator that will ensure that the prices are fair and are adjustable as and when economic factors depreciate or appreciate.
Right.
And so this is the way forward for Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah has had this vision. Till date, we've not been able to achieve that.
Well, comrade, how do we get out of this present situation? People spend long queues at the terminals. They don't get cars to come home or even go to work.
Well, it is a mark of prestige, I guess, that each and every one of us should own a vehicle. And yet, and it is a mark of prestige for each one of us to want to own our own houses, accommodation. Yeah. Unfortunately, our land ownership system is such that it doesn't guarantee calculated development. We have the town and country planning. I don't know their role in our society, because you see developments that are taking place, that there's no utilities, there is no infrastructure in those areas that these developments are taking place. The offices of the town and country planning possibly are earning income, but they are not delivering on the reasons for which they exist, to help to plan our society. So when you go to East Legon Hills and many other places, development started sprouting. You go deep into the bush, you go and see one house here. Then you have to travel several kilometers. Then there's another one house here. And it's like anybody that has your land, you can sell. And then the lands commission just take your document, the surveyors, and then boom, there's land. You can build what you want to build. After you have finished building, then you realize that roads are not there. You finish building, then you realize that electricity doesn't exist. There is no water system. In fact, there is no sewage system. So pollution and many other things starts. Similarly, everybody wants to own a transport. Why? Because you want to go to work. And as soon as you set out from your house, you cannot reach to where you have to reach. You cannot reach to where you have to reach. I was burdened to study in Germany. And I tell you one thing, that it's like almost the period that we were growing up as young people. The Teta bar system that was in place under President Lehman, which Tata Bas, Dr. Baba Lehman, the son of Lehman, will sit in from Accra and get to Nandon Secondary School, even as his father was president, was that you get up and you knew that if you don't get to the bus terminal by a certain time,
yeah, you'll miss it.
You'll miss it. You understand? And because you knew you were going to miss it, you knew the time to get there. In Germany, the BVG in English. If you sit in your room, you are able to tell that it will take me 6 minutes to walk from my room to the bus terminal. And you know, you can actually track the train, the tram, or the bus to know where it is, and it will arrive at a certain time. So you walk. Just when you arrive, the bus or the train or the tram is there. You sit in. Because of that, it was very difficult for you to want to use your own vehicle. Because if you use your own vehicle and you are on the bus lane, you are going to pay severely for it. So the bus lane will be cleared. And majority of people, and I sat in the same train, on the same seat with my professors. We get down at the station, we walk the next 300 or 400 meters to go and sit in the class, and the professor is removing his jacket or her jacket, and you are hanging your jacket, and the person is going to teach you. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah. You traveled. So what has happened to our busing system? Why are we still keeping STC? Why are we still keeping Metro Mass? Why are we still keeping Ayalulu if they will not be able to provide the public service transport that we need? Regulated on timelines. When we were going to Lower Secondary School those days, trust me, you knew what time the bus will arrive at Keleu. So if you were in Sankana, you have to get to Keleu. You got to Keleu at least 2-3 minutes, and the bus is there. The Tata bus will come, Omni bus will come, intercity buses, they will come. And so you knew what time you should get there in order to sit in, to catch a bus to go. You even have what we used to call the Hamley sleeper. The bus will arrive in the evening and will go to Hamley and sleep. So whilst that one is coming towards Wa, the Wa bus also leaves at the same time. So you see that they meet. So if we have Minister for Transport, this should be where you should concentrate. That our roads are becoming crowded. They are being overused by private vehicles. And yet you can drive straight and come to the ministry police station area and stop. And most workers, right, can just get out of their public buses, boom, and go to their offices without any difficulty.
I'm told that was the mandate for these Ayalolo buses.
What is it that we cannot do? So you sit down, like basic things people are put in place to come and work, and then they come and sit down and then, oh, this file, put on file. That is not why we employ people as ministers or chief executives.
Again, the PRC system that we want to replicate from the West cannot work in urban Accra because we do not have the right road infrastructure and railways plan.
Before, everybody who lives in Accra used to know when the omnibus will arrive at Achimota.
But today,
it worked before. But we used to have the bus terminals.
Accra is crowded.
No, we used to have the bus terminals. That is why if Accra is crowded, move the capital away from Accra to somewhere in the Kintampo area. People are doing it in order to do decongestion. Lagos was moved to Abuja. Lagos is still prime doing its businesses.
That's right.
Please.
Well, let me take some few messages and then we'll be out of here. The time is against us. Good morning, Mr. Host. Extend my New Year greetings to your respected panelists. Let Honorable A.B. Fuseni and my good brother, Comrade Edward. My New Year message for Comrade is that, it's not Edward though, it's Bernard. It says you should join NDC. They need you in the NDC. All right. This one is from Musa Abattoir.
Their presidential.
Musa Abattoir and Savasi right. Ken Ofori issue raises serious questions about the earlier handling. We've not discussed Ken Ofori, but I'll read because you're an ardent watcher of the program. Of the earlier handling of the matter by the OSP, which appeared lackadaisical at the initial stages. To protect the integrity and image of the NPP as a political party, the leadership should openly distance itself from this issue and call on him to, please don't call, please. To call on him to avail himself for accountability. That's from Musa Abattoir in Asanwasi. Akbalio Daniel writes, President JDM deserves commendations for his steady management of the economy, which is already bringing relief to Ghanaians. The establishment of a strong economic advisory board, it's not a board, it's a group. There's a difference. Advisory group signals clear commitment to rebuilding a resilient economy and tapping into the experience of seasoned voices such as Bernard Monah, will further strengthen this effort. Okay. As these gains deepen, the grassroots must remain a central priority. Warm regards to Honorable A.B. Fuseni. Camry, they want you on the group. Good morning, Pan-African TV. I think our problem is indiscipline on our road. And again, floating drivers are the problems in the transport sector. And the government should also build more terminals and also try to fix the Achimota transport terminals today. Today, the terminal is not working because the drivers don't get there to load due to lack of passengers coming in. The problem goes beyond that. We're talking about, maybe changing the transport sector itself. Refocusing, the agenda within that sector. I think that would be the way to go. Steve, right? The NDC should be commended for bringing Sedona to Tamaklu to serve her jail term. This is something NPP.
They've only secured her.
Yeah. So definitely she will
go through some processes, but it's good thing.
She will come, or not, or she won't come. It seems your concerns always smell diabolic. Okay, like that of the opposition people. But remember, this is not the only Ghanaians we know. I don't get the sense in what you've written. All right, okay. I'm told my time is up. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to comment the MP for, is it Ayawaso West Wagon? Domelo. Yeah, for the tremendous sacrifices he's making in order to get people get their destination. That is welcome.
You should sit in Parliament and voice out the challenges.
And those of us too who drive singly in our cars when we get to the bath terminals, we are going forward. I think that it will not be out of place to support some of the commuters, just so they will also be able to add to the productivity of our nation.
All right, the MP should go and voice the challenges in Parliament and get government to do the right thing. It's just an intermediary measure. Comrade, thank you so much, Comrade Bernard Monah. Thank you so much for passing through. Dr. Ramzi, thank you so much for coming through this morning. And to our viewers, thank you for doing the watching from Monday right about now. We'll see you same time next week. My name is David Otokuno Ato, and on behalf of the entire crew, Akakpo, Boama, Cephas, TT, and the rest, we say thank you so much for. PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.